Okay, what is up, everybody? I'm Dave. This is Dave Splains, and that was the little thing from the PowerPoint screen recorder. Um, so as promised, we were going to talk about this whole big thing about coding, where I actually tried to do some kind of coding every day for the next 30 days and put it here in YouTube on my channel. And I know you're seeing this and you're like, oh, cool, look, he did a bunch of really ugly Python. And this is kind of ugly Python. But before we get into this or any of these other files, you really have to install Python. Now, I'm not going to do a video about that because this is supposed to be all code, and I don't really want to waste time doing that. And there are lots of different things. Now, what you just saw here, this is Visual Studio Code. It's offered for free for Microsoft. It's great. It's got Python linting capabilities. You also have the option to do Jupyter notebooks, which a lot of people like because of the fact that you can transfer them, but they often don't have linting. And linting is just like, here we have time. So if I wanted to do, say, down here, if I wanted to add another thing here where I said time and then dot, and then it would give me a whole bunch of different options, and then as I type, they change. This is Python linting, or code linting. So Jupyter Notebooks does not have that, and there's a lot of different videos that you can choose to do to learn how to put Python on with Visual Studio Code. Once you get it in, it's really worth it. A lot of people don't like to do the work, and today I'm going to give you a different option, because if you remember from my sources of learning how to do code, I mentioned going to REPL it. So we're going to go ahead and create a REPL. And you saw that we can do different codes and everything. See, you can do Node.js, C, Java, whatever. Just a lot of different options here. We're going to do Python. And the reason why I'm doing Python primarily, we need a title. Infatuated Left Deep Learning. We're not going to do deep learning, so we're just going to do, well, really, I just want to talk to you about variables, and that is already one thing that is different from many other coding languages, is that with Python, there is no real constant that's worked with. It's not like Java, where in Java you mark everything as a constant. Sorry, you don't mark everything as a constant, but you can mark things as a constant, which kind of helps because you can put things in like gravity is a constant, so Earth gravity would be this, Mars gravity would be like that, and it's kind of easy to switch things around. And you don't have to worry about layer code messing it up. So usually you can easily just do something like this: 5 plus 5, and then equals 10. Well, you're not really asking anything, are you? I mean, you can run it, but It's not doing anything. Now, that doesn't mean that sorry, I just kind of went off the cuff there and I just completely lost my train of thought. The problem is you're not really telling the code what to do about that. If anything, you're going to end up, you might have ended up with like a true statement, like 5 plus 5 does equal 10. Okay, great. But nothing's really coming out of that. You're not telling the code what to do. So we're going to do print, and we'll do 5 plus 5, and we'll hit run, and that's fine. Okay, so we have that equals 10. So then we'll put 5 plus 5 equals 10. I'm not even gonna lie, I was kind of expecting it to be a true statement. That's how often I work with like that true statement idea. So instead of saying 5 plus 5, print 5 plus 5, we can do x equals 5 plus 5, and then we can do print x, then thing. Or we can do x equals 5, v equals 5. I'm not using my enter key at all for some reason. And then print x plus v. And now we're going to have 10, and we're going to have 10. So you have three different main options. And that is, at least in Python, you have int, there you go, okay. You have float, if I can type, and then you have string. Now, you can also have complex, but to be perfectly honest, I haven't gone into that much. But it's for complex numbers, and I wouldn't say that it's like the biggest deal that you really have to know right off the top of your head. Now, I should say that because string is actually labeled as str, which is great because int means integer. Now, so on and so forth. Integer is a non-decimal number, so it's what we call a whole number. A float is a decimal number. It can be positive, negative. A string is a word, a sentence. A string is also technically operates as a I don't want to say it works as a dictionary because it's not right. I'm just flopping off the top of my head. It kind of works like an array, but Python doesn't naturally have arrays unless you use NumPy, so we're not going to get into that. And then a complex is a complex number, like I squared equals, what is it? Is that J? Yeah. So, obviously, so we can do y equals, it explains, but because of the fact that this is a word, we have to have it in quotes. Now, technically speaking, you can also have it in single quotes, and often if you're oh no, what happened? my single quote. Often, you might have a situation where your variable has an apostrophe s, like I didn't initially learn Python in my 4-year degree, which isn't technically true. I learned it kind of, whatever. Now, I'm going to put this into double quotes because if I don't, I'll just take these off really quick. Put in single quotes. It right there with the apostrophe T, that's it. That's the string. Everything else is a mistake waiting for another. Now I can do this, but now there's not going to be an apostrophe. See how difficult this is? So really, when you're doing this, when you're doing like a string with an apostrophe, you want to use double quotes, but a lot of people will do single quotes. Sometimes you will want to write a quote which will have double quotation marks, and then you'll use single quotes. It's kind of, you interchange to make it fit. So just for fun, we'll leave that in there. And then W can equal 3.1456843, which would be really, really impressive if that was pi to the whatever. So, all right. Now going into this, we can go into, you want to find out what, and this is great for debugging, is to go through and start looking for what something comes out as. So like if you grab data from another source, from an outside source that you don't control, you want to learn what type it is. And technically speaking, a variable can actually be it can be a dictionary. It can be a some other kind of object. You can have a data frame come in. So you want to be able to decipher what it is. But just for right now, we're doing the basic variables. And now I just feel like a jerk because I feel like I just kind of threw everybody under the bus here. Now, this would be really a fun time to go through and do a for loop, but I'll explain. So I have all of these different things up here, and I'm just going to quote these out. Adding a pound symbol to the beginning of the line of code makes it into a comment, just so you know. And that's just because I don't want to sit there and have all this coming out. But so in order to find out what type a variable is, you just print type, or print type, and then the variable inside the types quotes. And we'll run, and W is a float. We can also write W is a, then Oh, we're going to want to add that space. What? Oh, that's going to be fun. All right, so here we ran into an error because we're talking about a type which is kind of an object, and we have a string. So what we're going to do now is called casting. So let's just put that in there. Now casting is where you take, remember those little interesting tags that I was talking about earlier where I was saying int or string? Well, this is what you can actually use these to do something called casting, where you turn something into something else. Now, what this is saying right here is saying that you can only concatenate strings, which means put them together, not type to string. And this is like a type object. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn this type object into a string, and we'll see what happens. W is a class float. Obviously that's not very pretty, but it works, right? And sometimes you're going to need to do this because sometimes you're going to want to sit there and go like, just for giggles, we'll put in, why not giggles, equals 4. Now giggles is definitely we'll see how this works out. This is obviously kind of an odd name to call that, but I said just for giggles, so now we're going to do it. Now we might have problems with this because giggles is you know what? Let's find out what giggles is. Type. Oh, we do have linting in REPL. That's awesome. All right. So we have type giggles, and then we're going to do print t. We'll see what happens. Boom. There we have a problem. Look, it's not a string, so we have to, we can do it here. Equals what did I do? All right, there we go. And now all right, why is this okay? And now we have, I didn't initially learn Python in my 4-year degree, even though over here it says giggles. But now, see, I would have to switch this out. I'd have to turn all of these things into a string. Now, the fun thing is that now I can go through and I can put these all into an array of some sort. You know, do like a set or something. And I'd be able to do just fine. Put it into a list. And then should be iterable through a list. So okay, first off, list equals x, v, y, t, w, and then for x in list, print type x. This will be fun. Int, string, string, float. See? Fun. So, I guess I kind of like ran around a lot with that. The same thing, I do want to go through that because we just used a list in here. And I know that this is me being mean and just showing off. And now remember, x is an iteration. That means it's the spot that's being currently talked about. A string is often also considered kind of like a list. So for x in t, or you know what, for x and y, because it's a smaller one, colon print x, and hit run. As you can see, once again, it goes through. And that's kind of an important feature to talk about later on. But for now, I think that's what I really kind of want to focus on, is just what you can really do with these different options. So really quick, an int is just a whole number, and a float is a number that has a decimal, and a string is a sentence, a word, a paragraph, what have you. So those are your basic variable types. You can also say that like you can have a variable be a list like this, where as you can see here, it's kind of an array but not really. It can also be a dictionary, it can be a set, it can be a tuple, and that's one of the reasons why I like the fact that Python is used so much to learn how to code, is because of the fact that it has tuples. So it works in the same realm as like C# and other higher form languages, rather than like JavaScript that doesn't have a tuple. But it also works in the same realm as JavaScript, because you can put in, you can import NumPy and have an array. So it's just an easy language to learn with. I know somebody asked me to talk about, I believe it was C++, and it was working with like building menus or something like that, like front end stuff. And I'm like, I could. I'd have to research that a little bit more. I was going to do primarily just like teaching how to do Python, but like it's definitely not something that I'm not interested. Like I definitely would be interested in doing that. Um, but again, for right now, I'm basically just kind of like throwing you through a bunch of different things, and I like doing this where you can see me do like a for loop really quick and see how you can interact with these things, because this is how my brain works. There are going to be times where I want to um, change everything. So I'll be sitting there going like, what is it here, for X in lists, and then I'll do something like for X in lists, and then I'll say X equals string X. And then I'll do it again for X in list print type X. And we'll just see what happens. Yeah, see, it's still it still hasn't converted it, but like, that's something that you would do. Like, I didn't plan this. This is off the cuff of my I'm not really, I didn't plan that out, so I had no idea whether or not this was going to work. But the idea is like, I'm going to do something and change all of these, and then I'm going to write that code again to make sure that it happened. So this is just my way of like kind of letting you into how I think about code. And yeah, all right, that was fun, and I will catch you in the next one. All right, I guess see you tomorrow.